Okay, so fall is upon us, and some of you might already be sipping on your pumpkin spice latte, or you're probably brewing up your apple ciders at crazy speed. But today I thought that we would actually chat about how my self-care routine is going to be shifting now that we're shifting into fall. So this is going to be a multi-video series because there's just simply no way for me to really put everything into one, and we're going to be here for hours if I did that. So I don't think you really want me to do that. So in today's video, we're going to begin with part 1, which talks about really my self-care routine for workouts. So we're going to be tackling how my weight training is changing, how I'm actually working out and where and in what duration. So we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of all of that. We're also going to be talking about recovery. What does recovery really look like for me? And perhaps you can take some notes from that as well. And then we're going to be talking about food and drinks and how all of those things that I'm taking into my body, how is that shifting now that we're moving into the colder months? And then finally, we're going to be talking about rest. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, only because in a separate video, I will actually take you through what my new self-care routine is for the evening. And that will include skincare, that will include movement as well. So without further ado, why don't we just dive right in? Hey guys, what's happening? It's Meshi with Meshi TV. I'm so glad that you are here. Thank you so much for coming by. So if you are new, today we're going to be talking about self-care, as you have just heard a moment ago. But really, if you are brand new, consider sticking around, because we tackle things like true self-care practices and rituals and esoteric rituals, I guess, and we talk about tarot at least a couple of times a week. We talk about the law of attraction and how we can work with the energies around you and how we can truly manifest a more holistically driven, more fulfilled life. So if that sounds good, maybe you should consider sticking around. All right, so why would we really want to change our self-care routine, first of all? I mean, most of us, when most of us think of self-care, most of us think of self-care as in you kind of blast it out one day on a Sunday and you go full on out and you pamper yourself. But to me, self-care is definitely something that takes care of your mind, your body, and your soul. So it kind of encompasses all areas of life. To me, sometimes self-care means rest. Other times it means moving my body. So this is why I wanted to really talk about this, because the way that I move during the summertime, especially when my children are here, is going to be fundamentally different than how I end up creating my workout plan moving into the fall. First of all, the weather is getting colder, which beyond the sweater weather, beyond, just the cooler, crisp air in the morning, beyond that, I personally love, and beyond, of course, the matte lipsticks. I mean, let's not forget that. Beyond that, I really love fall for weight training. I love fall for doing yoga. If I can, I do it outside. But I also really love the fall for runs, because I find that it's no longer humid. You don't really have to time your runs as much. You can do them outdoors, which to me, an outdoor run is always a lot more challenging. Perhaps you're a runner too, and so you can actually relate to this. I always found that my outdoor runs are going to be a lot more challenging if I do them outside, because the terrain is going to be changing, but I also make a lot more progress. So I feel like my endurance builds a lot quicker when I'm training outside, which is kind of logical if you think about it. So let's talk about running first and foremost. For me, running, I start on 20 minutes. Right now, I'm going to be working on creating a running schedule where I can start running up to about an hour. And I'm giving myself from September until about November. After November, when it starts to snow and rain and things like that, I tend to just stay more indoors. But by that point, within that 2-3 months period, I feel like that's a sufficient amount of time for me to not only build up my stamina, but then when I feel like I'm sort of forced to stay indoors and take my training inside, then by that point you have like a really beautiful baseline, which is why I love it. Now let's talk about beyond outdoor running. I also do weight training. I think that's very important that I incorporate weight training into my overall routine, mainly because I want those stabilizing muscles to be nice and strong and allow me to run longer. The more stress I'm putting on my body, obviously, is going to take a toll. So for me to add into the mix at least one day of weight training, anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes, work up to about 45 minutes. For me, it's not so much the duration when it comes to weight training. To me, it's all about really endurance. Can I last? Can I shorten up my reps? Can I go a little bit longer? Or can I shorten up my rest? All right, so weight training, that's all I wanted to mention about that. Basically, I think that it's essential, especially if you do a lot of yoga or if you're planning on training anytime outdoors. It's very, very important that you also include at least minimum, at least 1 day, 1 to 2 days, when you at least tackle the stabilizing muscles, because when those guys are nice and strong, you will perform so much better by the time you make it out for a run or by the time you do any of your harder, longer yoga practices. Which brings me to my next point in yoga. With yoga practices, my plan is, obviously you guys see me practicing with you each week, so that will continue on. But beyond that, I also like to add at least a couple of days of yoga practice that are just a little bit more challenging and a little bit more, I guess it's more focused. We can focus a little bit more on stabilizing and slow control versus fast and speedy practices that really are just great when you're just first getting started. Now let's talk about recovery for a moment, because I think that recovery is such an essential part of how I'm switching things up for the fall. Obviously, the way that I'm going to be eating is going to be fundamentally different because the food is different. We're entering into a newer season. So especially when I'm increasing my workload, I find that I need to fuel so fundamentally differently than during the summertime. During the summertime, I'm all about the cooling foods, so the salads and the fruits and the veggies. Whereas when I'm moving into the fall season, I find that I gravitate more towards things like a lot more protein heavy, a lot more stews and curries and chilies. I mean, even me thinking about this, it just makes me happy. Also, cream soups are going to be another dominating thing that I'm going to be adding into the way that we're cooking. And of course, a lot more dark leafy green veggies. So I see, and then that kind of leads me into what are we going to be drinking. I'm planning on doing a lot more juicing, a lot more nutrient dense foods, especially when I find that I'm increasing our workload. I need to fuel just fundamentally differently. So things like green smoothies, green juices, or just juicing in general, when we can add like local apples, some lemon, you know, things like that. It really makes a big difference, I find, especially as we're moving into flu season. And I mean, at this point, with kids going back to school, I definitely want our immunity to be a lot stronger. And also, let's not forget the apples. Let's not forget the apple ciders, and let's not forget turmeric. Turmeric is going to be fantastic. So I like to kind of switch up our lattes once in a while, where we're not just constantly consuming coffee, but then we can also maybe add a little bit of, I tend to add a little bit of either turmeric into our tea or into our coffees and kind of blend them together. That way you're not only getting the benefit of the coffee, but then you also have the benefit of turmeric as well. And last but not least, let's talk a little bit about rest. Rest is going to be essential because the colder it is, I find that the more tired I get, and also we're going to be shifting with sunlight. So the less sunlight that I get, I obviously feel like I need to rest more. And last but not least, let's talk just a little bit about rest and how that's shifting. Getting more rest. Okay, I'm not telling you anything new here. Like this sort of like, duh, right? But hear me out. I think that rest has to be done in a way where it feels more intuitively right for you. Rest is essential. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, where I'm going to be taking you through my updated skincare routine and my updated evening routine of how I'm planning on shifting as we're shifting into the colder months. And I think that you guys will probably find that a little bit helpful. Toby has decided to join us. He feels really good about it because he's all about self-care right now. Anyway, so obviously once the full playlist has been completed, I would just link all of them into the description so you guys can kind of go through all of them together as a whole. Now, this is all I wanted to share with you. I would love to know one thing. I would love to know what you're shifting as we're moving. So I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comment section below. What are you changing in your workout routine or in your fitness routine as we move into the fall, especially if you're in Canada? Because some of you might be doing a lot more indoor workouts, some of you might be doing a lot more outdoor workouts or a lot more outdoor training, or you might be doing a lot more weight training or CrossFit. Whatever it is, I would love to hear from you. So let me know in the comment section below, because I would love to start that conversation with you guys. And that's all I wanted to share with you. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you did, you already know how to support the channel. You can give us a thumbs up, and you can also subscribe if you haven't already. Notification bell will obviously just notify you every single day that I upload a new video. Right now our schedule is Monday to Friday. Obviously that might change as we move into the fall, so fingers crossed. And that's all I got. And thanks so much for watching, you guys, and I can't wait to chat with you in my next video. Bye.